Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle. The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
Good morning mga Katipuneros. Good morning po sa inyong lahat. It's a Wednesday, May 30, 2018. Yes, kumusta po ang inyong mga gising? Good morning sa inyong lahat and welcome to our radio show, The Jesuit Hour. And this is your host, Father Nono Alfonso, SJ. Kumusta po ang inyong gising? Yes. Okay, so bago po tayo magsimula, let's offer a prayer. And let's take our prayer once again from Father James Kubiki's A Year of Daily Offerings. And he continues to reflect on the gift of the Holy Spirit. And so he writes, the gift of the Holy Spirit are specific ways in which the Spirit, given to us at baptism, helps us on our journey through life. Fortitude is a gift that empowers us to act on the wisdom, knowledge, and counsel that are given even in the face of opposition and the threat of death. According to Pope Francis, fortitude liberates our heart and frees it from sluggishness, from uncertainty, and from all the fears that can hinder it. The gift of fortitude is a true help. It gives us strength. We often think of the martyrs, those who gave the ultimate witness to the faith by suffering and dying rather than giving up. But this is a gift that every Christian needs. Pope Francis said, this gift must constitute the tenor of our Christian life in the ordinary daily routine. As I said, we need to be strong every day of our lives to carry forward our life, our family, our faith. The Apostle Paul said something that will benefit us to hear. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. When we face daily life, when difficulties arise, let us remember this. And so we pray. Jesus, knowing how weak I am, I humbly come before you. I have many fears, rejection, suffering, and death. You face those in your life on earth, and you have the strength to not give in to fear. You were so anxious, you sweat blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. But, convinced of the Father's love for you, you surrendered yourself completely to His will. Give me the Spirit, the gift of fortitude today, so that I may overcome all that causes me fear. Amen. And so, my dear friends, mga Katipuneros, let's pray for that, the gift of fortitude given to us by the Holy Spirit. Yes, good morning po sa inyong lahat. And before we begin, let us greet all our Katipuneros, Ateneans here and outside of the Ateneo. And of course, shout out to all our Ateneo alumni associations in the U.S. and in Canada and the rest of the world. Yes, my dear friends, and so this morning we have a guest, a Jesuit guest. Ang sabi ko niyan, parang kakaunti na lamang po sila, rare species. Pero he is here with us. He's a very good friend of ours. My dear friends, he is a philosopher, Nax. He used to teach here at the Ateneo de University, and now he is based in Zamboanga University, vice president for, I think, academic affairs, whatever. Hi, RJ. So, my dear friends, please welcome Father Louis Catalan as J. Good morning, Father Louis.
Good morning, Father Nono, and to all the listeners of this Katipunan Radio.
Yes,
Radyo Katipunan.
And of course, we are also seen live through Facebook. Okay, so Father Louis, you were based for a long time here in Manila. And then you were shipped out to Zamboanga. So what are you doing now in Zamboanga?
So, as you said, I am Vice President for Higher Education, which means I coordinate with the different deans of the different colleges of Ateneo de Zamboanga University, College of Nursing, College of Liberal Arts, School of Management and Accountancy, School of Engineering,
Wow, that's a lot.
plus the
Wow.
School of Medicine and College of Law.
Wow, with all of that, wala ka ng social life niyan.
Well, meron naman kahit papaano kasi naman may mga deans naman eh.
Yes, of
So I
course.
just coordinate with them.
So, in the Ateneo, when you were here, you were teaching philosophy at the college, and you were
Yes.
minister of Loyola House of Studies.
I
Isn't that a big change in terms of the load?
well, yeah, because now my work in Ateneo de Zamboanga is purely administrative.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
teach anymore.
Yeah,
Perhaps there will be a time for me to teach.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike here, for the past 6 years, I was
Wow.
teaching full load.
Mm-hmm.
Philosophy of religion, aside from being minister of Loyola House and minister of the Wellness Center.
Wow. So how has been the adjustment for you so far? You've been in Zamboanga for the last
I was assigned there last November.
last November. So
And how is my adjustment?
yes,
Easy.
easy.
Easy. In fact, I like being in Zamboanga. Because,
Yes.
as you know, I was already
Yeah.
I was assigned in Zamboanga as a region.
As a region, of
1992 to
course.
94. So it's some kind of a homecoming.
Yes, but Father, life in the provinces is slower.
It's slower and it gives you more time to think.
And pray, hopefully.
Of course. Goes without saying.
And I believe that the Jesuit community in Zamboanga is quite young.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's one of those
So-
communities that that would have very young Jesuits.
But of course, Father, any trepidations, as it were, or fear, they experienced this so-called Zamboanga siege a few years back.
Well, a few years back,
Yeah.
there was that fear.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Zamboanga is relatively calm.
Mm-hmm,
It's peaceful, actually.
Wow, really, huh?
Yeah.
So,
I know that from first-hand
Yeah.
experience because
Yeah.
I live there.
yeah.
So I'm sorry to say, but some of the rumors that come to Manila that are heard here in Manila
Are
are
not
not really true.
True. Okay.
So not really
So,
true.
Father, let's go back to philosophy. I would like to think, or I think that you are one of the few philosophers we have in the Philippine province. Is that correct?
Yes, right now, well, of course, we have Father Roque Ferriols.
Yes, but he's
I don't
retired.
think he's retired. He's no longer teaching.
Mm-hmm.
There are two more Jesuits still in the philosophy department who are still teaching.
Father Nemike, Father
and
Louis
Father
David. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I still am part of the philosophy department of Ateneo de Manila, and I'm just on loan
Mm-hmm.
in Ateneo de Zamboanga.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh?
At least, yun ang pagkakaalam ko.
Hindi, doon ka na mamamatay.
Hindi, may access pa ako sa ISIS eh.
Okay, Father, I know, and I'm sure we are preparing younger Jesuits after you to take up philosophy.
I think we have one, Father Pat Nogoy.
Okay.
He's now in
Pero kukunti lang talaga,
England.
Father. Why is that? How do you explain it? Parang kakaunti yung nagfi-philosophy. Is that a decision on the part of the...
Well, you see, because
Superiors?
I think this is how I understand it. No, our priority is to give more men to theology,
Yes.
because we have Loyola School of Theology, that is the school to prepare priests. And as you know, Jesuits are our congregation, our order is primarily a clerical order. So we are supposed to be training priests. And as you know, it is theology which is the most important matter for those training for the priesthood. Of course, there's always philosophy, but it's really just, well, I'm sure the other philosophers here in the in Ateneo de Manila will kill me, but from our viewpoint, at least from the viewpoint of theologians, it is the handmaid of theology. Although, I used to have a Jesuit professor, Father Francis Riley, who told us it's not really just a handmaid. It is a handmaid for good living.
I like that. Okay, so Father, but for yourself, speaking for yourself, did you always like philosophy? Were you attracted to philosophy? Namimilosopiya ka ba? Nagmemeron ka na ba nung bata ka pa? Why did you choose philosophy?
Why philosophy?
Yeah.
Well, in college, I chose philosophy when I was in college. Probably because I was thinking of, I was thinking of studying law
Law.
after college.
Uh-huh.
And philosophy was a pre-law degree.
Yes,
Continues
yes.
to be a pre-law degree.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was also taking up accounting.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that maybe as as a lawyer, I could also be a CPA.
Oh, grabe naman. Gifted child ka.
Nga eh.
Pwedeng mag-philo, pwedeng mag-math.
Ganun ako kaloko-loko dati.
Santo Father, saan ka nag-aral noon?
Yung pinakamagaling na school?
Pinakamagaling na school saan?
Sa Lasal, De La Salle University.
Uy, may philo pala sa Lasal?
Oo naman. Kaloka.
Joke lang po.
Yeah, of course. In fact, one of our philosophy professors in LST, Dr. Romualdo Abulad, he used to be my philosophy professor in LaSalle.
Oh, really?
And now he's dean of SVD, Christ the King.
So it was preparatory for law, and you intended to, diba, to
I was thinking of taking up law because of my father.
Yes, your
who
father
was a lawyer.
Was a lawyer. So, pero aside from that, did anything attract you to doing philosophy? Kasi diba, yung some are really, I know of some Jesuits who are really repulsed.
Well, actually, bata pa lang ko, I was already thinking of the priesthood. So sabi ko, well, why not philosophy? So kung hindi ako matuloy sa pagpapari, probably I can go to law. So although the other thing was, I was also thinking of medicine.
Pero why philosophy? Kasi yun, preparatory pa rin. No? Pero kasi may iba kasi yung parang mahilig mag-isip. Diba? Mahilig, diba? Mag-reflect, yung deep thoughts, profound thoughts.
I've always been interested in ideas. How ideas govern the world. May pagkasanay ako in terms of ideas, abstract thinking.
Pero at the same
home
time,
ako dyan.
At the same time, you're also grounded. Hilig mo rin
because
accounting.
Because may accounting ako So, accounting enabled me to, stay on ground.
Okay. So, how did you prepare for your stint at the philosophy department of the Ateneo? You took up doctorate.
I took up, after philosophy in LaSalle, after graduation, I taught philosophy in LaSalle. Philosophy of
English.
It was, I graduated in December, trimestral kasi sa LaSalle. And then January to April, I was teaching in LaSalle while reviewing for the board, accounting board. That's my first taste of teaching philosophy. And then pagdating sa when I became a Jesuit, I was asked to repeat my philosophy. And so I had 2 years of philosophy here, and the current chair of the philosophy department, si Dr. Jean Tan, she was with me. She was she was my batchmate. She was still in college then.
We were batchmates.
Yeah, so sabay kami ng philosophy. I remember we would have classes in LST. And so 2 years of undergraduate philosophy, Ateneo Philosophy. And then after that, after ordination, then I started to do my further studies in philosophy.
Wow. Okay, so pinaulit, Father, sa yung philo. But you could see the difference, the approaches. LaSalle philosophy and Ateneo philosophy. What would be the difference?
It's really phenomenological yung approach. And it's really in terms of, it's intensive in terms of depth. Malalim talaga. In LaSalle, I think that's, I may be wrong, but this is my impression. Sa LaSalle, they give you the different schools of philosophy. Lahat dadaanan mo. In fact, certain philosophical schools, thoughts that I had in LaSalle, we did not discuss here in Ateneo de Manila. So for example, structuralism, siguro hindi ko lang naabutan dito sa Ateneo. Of course, before in LaSalle, we would have a philosophy on nihilism, on Nietzsche, on Jean-Paul Sartre. Dito, iba naman ang focus nila. Marcel, Gabriel Marcel.
Tsaka meron daw atheism, di ba? A course on atheism.
Yes, we had that in
Talaga?
kasi ang gusto kasi ng Lasal ipakita sa lahat ng to sample all schools of philosophy. And
but here you chose
here it's clear
a school of philosophy tapos nag-dive deeper into it. Phenomenology, metaphysics.
Yes.
In
fact, I don't remember taking Hindu philosophy here in Ateneo. Sa Lasal, we had Hindu philosophy. Although we had Chinese philosophy here in
Kami,
Ateneo.
we took that up.
Hindu philosophy.
Yes, So iba-ibang school, iba-ibang kasi sa sa UST, I understand, yung philosophy nila masyadong focus on Thomas Aquinas, correct?
Yes, very much like here in Ateneo de Manila. May pagka-thomistic. Sa Lasal, I may be wrong, but I did not see the Thomistic slant of the philosophy given in Lasal. Iba talaga more of a contemporary.
What about the teachers? Kasi dito sa Ateneo.
Well, I never had any priests as professors in Lasal. The Lasal brothers, no, I never had any Lasal brothers as philosophers.
Pero, di ba, yung mga estudyante kasi, I remember my college days in philosophy, and there were teachers who terrified students, di ba? Di ba yung kinatatakutan talaga? And yung philo department yung doon gumagaya na lang yung ibang departments, pero yung philo department talaga, yung oral exams, final oral exams, yun yung pinaka-kinatatakutan because there were terror teachers. Yung bang nag-oral exam ka,
yeah, I
kung ano-anong ginagawa.
I remember Father Roque Ferriol. Terror talaga siya.
Terror yun.
Sa Lasal, I think, more of written exams kami.
Hindi oral.
Ilan lang yung oral exams. I remember ang oral exam ko lang was before defending my thesis. May thesis kami sa Lasal, mga philo majors Dito sa Ateneo de Manila, philo majors don't. Well, now they have the option to write the thesis. So I remember, yun ang comprehensive exams namin, oral, and partly written. Before the thesis.
Okay.
I remember my thesis then was on the concept of freedom by St. Augustine.
Nox naman sa yan? Sa Lasal?
Sa Lasal.
Wow. Bakit? Ano ba yung concept ni Augustine of freedom?
Mahaba.
Okay. Tapos, dito sa Ateneo, you fell in love all over again with philosophy. Ganun ba yun? Would you describe it that way?
Ganito. I've always had this inclination to philosophy. But really, when I was asked on what field of studies I'd like to go into, what I told my provincial then, si Father Noel Vasquez, was I'd like to go into moral theology.
Moral theology.
But then, kulang ng Jesuit Philosophers.
Yes.
So, pinapunta ako sa philosophy ni Father Archie Intengan, the provincial after Father Noel.
Did you write any thesis here in the Ateneo? May thesis rin ba?
Actually, dito sa Ateneo de Manila, although meron akong undergraduate philosophy, I was also taking some courses on the masteral level. I just finished the comprehensive exams for the masteral level, pero hindi ko tinapos yung thesis.
Okay. Pero ano yung paborito mong dito philosophy course?
Actually, I enjoyed metaphysics.
Metaphysics.
Okay.
So,
philosophy of language.
And then you were ordained to the priesthood.
I was ordained to the priesthood.
You worked for a while in the parish, and
yes.
then
After
in the Curia, you were asked to work there as well. And then you were sent abroad to study philosophy.
Yeah. Doon ako pinag-doctorate.
Rather than moral theology nga. So, where did you obtain your doctorate?
I went to Comillas, a Jesuit university, Pontifical University in Spain.
Wow, Spain. Ang ganda ng Spain.
I was in Madrid.
For how many years?
6 years 6 years. So I was there doing my doctorate in philosophy. And then because the provincial then who sent me, Father Archie was a doctor, he wanted me to go into Neuro Philosophy.
Neuro Philosophy. What is that?
Well, it's an emerging. Well, it's no longer an emerging field.
It has emerged.
It has emerged. It's full of studies in terms of the discoveries about the human brain and how the discoveries shape or change our understanding of the
Philosophy
human
pa ba yan,
person.
Father? Kasi parang ano na yan, verging already on biology, on
May halo yan eh kasi
neuroscience.
it's interdisciplinary.
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 Wow.
It's interdisciplinary in the sense that you consider yun nga, the recent discoveries, findings about the human brain and how they shape our understanding of who the human person is. So it's very interesting actually.
Yeah.
And
So at the time when you were studying, that was the emerging field in philosophy.
yes, for
Bago
the
yun.
neuroscience part, I had to study the thought of a neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio, and his focus was on the neurobiology of emotions, feelings, and consciousness. And then for the philosophy part, I had to study Spanish philosopher, si Javier Zubiri. And then I had to make the two, the neuroscientist and the philosopher dialogue. So that in the end, what I came up in my dissertation would be a neurophilosophical understanding of the human person based on certain principles, neurophilosophical principles.
Zubiri, of course, was a Jesuit.
No, he was a diocesan priest from the land of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Diocesan priest, and then after a while he left the priesthood. And then, but he taught in the Gregoriana in Rome. He's well known.
Hindi naman nag-asawa at nagkapamilya.
May asawa rin siya.
So talagang lumabas
talaga. And he's well known in Spain until now, or at least in Madrid until now. There are still Zubiri circles.
Did you study everything in Spanish?
Well, yes, of course. Kasi during my time, hindi pa uso yung yung mga English courses. All my courses were in Spanish. Kaya sakit ng ulo ko during that time.
You had to learn Spanish muna?
Yes. Well, actually, in high school, we had 1 year of Spanish. Pero, and then, when I went to La Salle, meron pa ring 12 units required.
Yes.
But, iba yun eh.
Yeah.
And then, but immediately before going to Spain, I was in UP with Teresiana, Spanyola. And then she gave me intensive courses in Spanish. Pero iba pa rin yun eh. Pagdating sa Madrid, sa Spain, they speak so fast. So baliwala, hindi naman sa baliwala, pero mahirap talaga.
Parang you need to practice a lot.
Yeah, I need to practice.
But at the same time, you have to study, di ba? So,
yes, kaya nga eh.
Results are expected of you.
Doctoral course, usually 5 lang kami dyan. 5 or 4. So talagang yan, puro readings, and then you're supposed to participate.
Yes.
Mga kasama ko, mga mga Latin Americans, ang bilis sila magsalita.
So even the discussion is in Spanish?
Everything in Spanish.
Oh my God.
Everything.
Yeah.
Even the defense of the dissertation was in Spanish. Ang alam ko now, Comillas has allowed a defense in English. But I wrote my dissertation in English because my mentor then said na if you write it in Spanish and you're writing about a Spanish philosopher, kilala na yan eh in Spain. Might as well just write in English, translate his
so that mas makilala
words,
pa
mas makilala siya in the English-speaking world.
Yes. Pero madali na yung wala pa bang Google Translate noon?
Well, meron naman, pero Google Translate in terms of...
alam mo, sinulat mo in English, ipasok mo na sa Google Translate, magiging Spanish na yan. Although,
hindi yun automatic. Ang mahirap is to write it in English and defend it in Spanish.
So, but that's what you did.
That's what I did.
My
The
God.
defense was in Spanish. Pero compared to German or French, madali ang Spanish.
Yes,
we will understand Spanish.
Yes. So, Father, yung dissertation mo again, what was that about?
Neurophilosophical understanding of the human person.
Wow. Kasi when you were freshly out of your studies, there was a joke going around dito sa community. I don't know if it was a joke na hindi ka na rin naniniwala na yung tao may kaluluwa, no? It's all mental operation ang tao raw.
It really depends on the neuroscientist that you're Kasi ito kasi yung problema sa neuroscience. Sometimes they venture into an area that is no longer covered by their expertise. So when you study the human brain, of course, many of the things that we know about the powers or faculties supposedly of a soul can now be explained by the human brain.
The operations of the human. So parang
for example, thinking is supposed to be in traditional philosophy belongs to the rational part of the human soul. But if it can be explained by the brain, why speak of the soul?
Yes,
Diba?
yes.
Even emotions, they're supposed to be part of the sentient soul. I'm talking of the Aristotelian understanding of the soul, no? Sentient soul. If emotions and feelings can be explained by the
mental
evolutionary, evolution by the limbic system of the brain. So why appeal to a soul? So, but it doesn't follow that just because it can be explained by the brain, it doesn't mean that there's no soul.
Yes.
That's beyond the territory of the neuroscientist.
So, kumbaga, everything is biological para dito
yes,
sa...
parang ganyan nga. You reduce everything to matter.
Yes.
Which is dangerous. That's really reductionism. You know, isa sa mga problema sa philosophy, may pagka-reductionist.
Anong tawag nila? Hyper-formalized? Ano?
Hyper-formalization. Hyper-formalized brain. It's a Zubirian term for a very developed, evolutionary developed brain.
And that takes the place of the soul para sa kanila.
Well, ganito. Kasi right now, instead of the soul, they use the word consciousness. And obviously, consciousness, pagka tinamaan yung brain mo, wala kang consciousness. It can be explained by the operations of the brain. Yun ang ginagamit nila ngayon, consciousness instead of the word soul.
So, when you were studying all of this, hindi ka ba nagpanic na parang, di ba?
Well, ganito, when I was asking my mentor was also a Jesuit priest. So, I was asking him, Father, paano ito? If everything can be reduced to matter, so what about the soul? So, when we die, then everything goes into nothing. What about the resurrection? Di ba? Di ba, usapan natin, di ba, in traditional philosophy, the soul is supposed to be the principle of identity. I mean, your body changes, but you remain the same because of your soul.
Yes.
It doesn't change. So what happens? You know, my Jesuit professor, my mentor, said, Louis, hindi pala ako Louis sa Spain, Marcos ang pangalan doon. Marcos, look at the creed. It doesn't tell you about anything about the soul. It talks about the resurrection of the body. So, asan yung soul doon? Totoo rin naman. No? And second, don't worry about the soul because God remembers you. Are you doubting the power of God to resurrect you as you? So, just focus and finish your dissertation.
So, hindi niya sinagot. Hindi niya sinagot.
Hindi, ang gusto lang niya sabihin, there are limits to what we are studying. But God cannot be limited by anything that we study.
So, yung tanong mo, Father, what happens in the resurrection? Kung lang soul. But you can also take that up at the beginning, di ba? Yung may mga nagsasabi rin, mga, anong tawag na kanila, mga evolutionist, na kailan, di ba, if we evolved from from animals, di ba?
But we did, no?
Kaya nga.
We did.
But pero saan daw yung point na God infused?
Yung tinatawag nilang ensoulment.
Yes. Kung walang soul, walang problema yun, di ba?
It's really...
Pasensya na po mga Katipuneros, but this is philosophy. We're doing philosophy.
It's speculation. I'm not sure kung makapatay na ako ng mga theologians. Pero, I mean, ensoulment, at a certain point, God enters, intervenes, and infuses a human soul.
Yes.
So, paano yan? Before He intervened, at the moment of conception, yun ba? I mean, there was no human being? Or at the very moment of conception, the soul was infused by God? Parang ganon. Yun
yung kasi sa US especially, grabe yung debate yan, di ba? Yung mga creationists versus evolutionists. At yun yung
Mm-hmm.
pinagdedebatihan, na kung nag-evolve lang, kailan kailan nagkaroon ng kaluluwa yung tao? Kailan nilagay ng Diyos? Ano? So, yung sabi mo, ensoulment. Anyway, that's
Well, my philosopher, si Javier Zubiri, would say you can understand the soul in terms of the faculty of the human being in terms of transcendence, of being open to God. Yun lang yun eh.
Maganda yun.
But in the end, that faculty, because it is based on matter, it dies with you when the body dies. Hindi lang point.
Of course, yung soul kasi, it's really a, di ba, tawag ito, kailangan mong paniwalaan.
Remember the soul, when we speak of the word soul, we usually understand it in the context of the medieval traditional understanding of something, an entity that survives the death of the body and lives somewhere or flies somewhere or ganyan.
But it's really a matter of faith. It's not, di ba? It's not, it can't be proven, di ba? Yun lang yun. Although may mga nagsasabi na yung patay daw, pag bagong patay, di ba? Pag tinimbang mo, di ba? Gumagaan kasi nawawala na yung kaluluwa.
There's the release of a certain vapors or whatever.
So, yan daw yung proof na may kaluluwa.
Ganito, is there a soul? Our faith tells us.
Yeah. So it's a matter of faith, not empirical evidence.
Wait, but even then, does our faith tell us? I'm not sure now, no? Kasi, we do have a spirit.
Yeah.
You know, malinaw in terms of the scriptures. The spirit which is the breath of God.
Yeah.
Yan.
Okay.
So yun meron tayo.
So yun yung kumbaga you struggled with all of this. You worked on this, and then you obtained your doctorate and you came back. Ganun ba yun, Father? No? And then you taught philosophy.
Yeah, but I did not teach Neuro Philosophy. I taught philosophy of religion. Because during that time...
Did you like teaching philosophy?
Yeah, very interesting because makikita mo yung the students, there's a certain hunger in students in terms of reconciling philosophy and theology.
Sige, Father, ano?
In fact, kasi some of the questions of my students were more related to theology. Like how to explain the Immaculate Conception, how to explain original sin. Sabi ko nga, but this is philosophy of religion. No? My advantage then was because I knew some theology, I was able to explain it philosophically. And dahil dyan siguro lumalabas yung philosophy as the handmaid of theology.
Iyon. Okay, we'll take a short break. Father Louis, we have more questions for you. Sandali lamang po.
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour. Good morning, Ateneo. Start your day right with your morning wake-up call. Good morning, Ateneo. Energize your day with the lively, funny, and lovely tandem of Mir de los Santos and Tats Kidlat. Catch the latest news and stories around the campus. Good morning, Ateneo. Your daily dose of Radio Chikahan, Tawanan, Kantahan, and Kwentuhan. Every morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Tuesdays to Fridays. Good morning, Ateneo. Your mornings will never be the same again. Basil Valdez, the Apo Hiking Society, Parokya ni Edgar, Bukas Palad, the Ateneo Glee Club, and many more. All homegrown talents at the Ateneo de Manila University. Get to know the current music environment at the Ateneo. Tune in to Himig Ateneo. Himig Ateneo. Listen to the Blue Eagles sing. Himig Ateneo. Welcome to The Rundown, where we take you right into the action with the latest sports news, updates, game previews, breakdown, and analysis in, around, across, and beyond the Ateneo. And now, let's get ready to run down! Lead X. X is for the extracurricular life of the Ateneo College students. X is for the X factor that transforms them into leaders, into men and women for others. X is for Lead X. Lead X.
Down from the hill.
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle. The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
Okay, we're back here at our program, The Jesuit Hour. I'm your host, Father Nono Alfonso, and we are here with Father Louis Catalan SJ, our philosopher. Dito po sa mga Jesuita. Kokonti na lang sila, no? Tatlo or apat yata. Si Father Moga is...
Yeah. Akala ko you were referring to the
Here
philosophers here. Well, si Father Moga
Father
sa
Moga,
Ateneo de Zamboanga.
Meron pa bang iba?
He continues...
No, meron pang ibang mga Jesuits in the other Ateneos? Wala na, no?
Wala na yata. Si Father Moga na lang.
So, apat na lang kayong, yung may doctorate in philosophy. Wow.
Yeah.
Rare breed. Okay, so anyway, Father, you were talking about, before we took a break, you were talking about teaching philosophy, and you said you enjoyed teaching the college students, and they had questions. What kind of questions would they ask?
Yun na nga, yung doctrines in
Doctrines
theology
of the faith,
about
about-
Christology.
yes,
How
yes.
is it possible for Christ to be both human and divine? How to explain the Immaculate Conception, the Assumption, even the
So,
Resurrection.
mas catechetical yun, ha?
Pero yun na, these questions come from students eh. Sometimes I would explain the scriptures.
From a philosophical perspective?
Sometimes, well, from a theological perspective, sometimes from a philosophical
Swerte naman nila kasi
perspective.
pari ka rin.
Oh, yun na nga eh. Maybe
Oo.
that's the reason why.
Dapat doble yung bayad
Actually,
mo.
mahirap maghanap ng philosophy of religion. Professor. Nahirapan ng department. Pero I think ngayon, marami na sila. So,
Because questions of faith.
yes. Questions of faith. Because, our students really are searching.
Yun.
Our students think they have difficulties just accepting na ganito, ganyan.
Of course. And that's what we want from them, to ask questions.
I always tell them, although it is true that in essence we believe because of our faith, you must have reasons for believing. You must be able to explain what you believe.
Parang si Saint Anselm, ha?
No, that's Saint Paul.
Saint
Paul.
faith that seeks understanding.
That's true.
Yeah,
Pero
Saint Anselm.
biblical yun, you must have reasons for your belief.
Yes.
They may not be they may not be mathematical reasons, but in the end, they are convincing enough, persuasive enough for you to take a stand.
But
and
do
believe.
they struggle about the big questions of life, like what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
Yung mga kabataan ngayon, kasi nung panahon natin, di ba, we struggle with those questions, I'm sure. Pero ngayon kasi with all this, yung post-truth daw, etc., the millennial,
Yes.
etc., do they struggle with those?
They struggle with
questions?
with perennial questions like what is freedom, yung mga ganyan na what direction in life I will be taking.
What's the purpose of life?
Especially yung ethics part, yan. Mahalaga mga tanong sa kanila ito eh. Hindi pwede na sa kanila yung basta ganito, basta ganyan. No, you have to explain to some extent why it is what it is.
So they're seekers. You would,
Yeah.
You would say that the young people now,
Yes.
from your experience in teaching,
Yes. And I would say it's also because of their theology. Dito yung maganda na certain questions are awakened in the students because of their theology, our courses here, and then I think nako-complement ng philosophy. I see that there's a complementation between the two. It may be difficult to arrive at a complementation, pero may nangyayari.
What about Father Louis? Ethical questions kasi, 'di ba, with what's happening these days, 'di ba, yung
Moral relativism?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oo.
Napansin ko yung sa mga estudyante ko na parang sa kanila wala namang absolutes.
Yun.
Wala nang absolutes.
Mm-mm.
Everything is neither black nor white. Parang
So how did you handle that?
ang sinasabi ko lang sa kanila, just be careful about that because even that, sinasabi niyo wala nang absolute, even that can be relativized. If everything is relative, that statement itself is becomes relative, di ba? So, kung you just have to explain na if everything is relative, walang mangyayari sa buhay natin. There should be a certain ground of truth.
Everything is permissible.
Oo, everything is permissible. Lahat pwede nang gawin. Kung ganyan lang, magkanya-kanya na lang tayo.
Magpatayan na lang
Patayan na
tayo.
lang, walang
diba?
mangyayari. But there are certain truths which we hold sacred. For example, respect for human rights.
Yeah.
You want that to be relative.
Correct.
Ganyan. That you should not rape. You want that to be relative? Na pwede iba mag-rape, pwede iba hindi. Di ba? Just
parang you'll reach absurdity.
And sometimes you just have to be patient in explaining that to them.
So, alam mo
because
pa,
our students are intelligent.
Yeah.
They are intelligent.
But in a sense, therefore, your role as a philosophy teacher is very crucial.
Yeah.
Because
It's
in this
formation yan
kasi nga yun din yung sinasabi lagi ng mga popes natin in the past years na yung the culture of of relativism, everything is relative to me, di ba? Me, myself, di ba?
And that is why, as I said a while ago, philosophy is not just the handmaid of
Yun
theology.
nga,
It is the handmaid of good living because it makes you think.
Yes.
If you don't think,
Yes.
then your life will really be, you don't know how to live your life. Philosophy helps you think
Ayun.
deeply.
Ayun.
Not just logically, but deeply, coherently.
Okay. Kung meron kang father, kung meron kang mga paboritong mga philosophers, aside from yung yung napag-aralan mo sa Spain, sina Zubiri.
Nakalimutan ko na nga yan eh.
Di ba? Pero yung mga the great philosophers of the church.
Of course, si Anselm, Thomas Aquinas, Aristotle, Plato. These important philosophers who, sabi nga nila everything is just a footnote to Plato's philosophy.
Yes,
Even Aristotle's philosophy is just a footnote because it's just reacting to philosophy.
Pero halimbawa, si Father Louis David, di ba? Ang paborito niya, sino ba to?
Foucault.
Si Foucault, di ba? Oo, si Father Nemeke, si Hannah Arendt, di ba? Yun yung tinuturo niya.
Yes.
Yung inaral niya, di ba? So, ikaw ba, meron kang gano'n? Meron kang philosopher na...
Actually, I've been influenced really by Immanuel Kant.
Really?
Immanuel Kant. Malino kay Immanuel Kant the limits of reason. So, be careful in terms of what you say. If it cannot be based on reason, if it cannot be supported by reason, just be careful.
Wow.
Otherwise, you become reductionist. Ganyan.
So para lang sa ating Father, may mga batang Jesuita at mga Atenista na nakikinig sa atin. What does it take to be a philosopher, to become a philosopher like you or like Father Louis?
Well, ganito, it takes a certain degree of humility to admit that you don't know everything.
Nakasama parang Socrates yun,
Ay,
diba?
totoo naman eh. Everything begins with that eh. If you think, excuse me, if you think that you know everything, then there's no point of asking questions. There's no room for wonder anymore. If you're so self-complacent na, alam ko na yan, wala. All discoveries happen because of wonder, because because something
starting point of philosophy is
something
wonder.
disturbed you. Because if you don't have that humility, nothing will disturb you.
Wow. So humility and then wonder.
And the openness and everything begins with that.
Does it make a difference that you are, you've touched on this, but I want you to elaborate. Does it make a difference that you are a philosopher and at the same time a Catholic priest?
No, it
doesn't.
What I said about being humble to admit that you don't, that's part of being human.
Ah.
Whether you are a Catholic
that's a very
or
good
whether you are a
point.
priest,
Yeah.
no, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
really matter what your station in life is. For as long as you are a human being, you must be able, not must, you must. You have to have that humility in order to be to open to what can be.
Ah.
It's part of human nature. You don't have to be a priest or a Catholic, or as long as you can think, that's it.
Pero iba, Father, yung ano, di ba? Iba Father, yung like you said, ano, sa Lasal, yung approach niya sa philosophy is just give a, ano, no, di ba? A spectrum of various kinds of philosophy. Pero dito sa atin, because this is a very Catholic Knox University, so talagang the philo department is kumbaga talagang may inclination, may bias to ground the philosophy here on the Catholic faith. Parang ganun, meron bang ganun?
To ground it on the Catholic faith.
Or to help the students kumbaga appreciate the faith more through their
Ganito,
learning in philosophy.
at least in terms of the philosophy and the faith, the philosophy helps you to be open to the possibility that there is a God.
Parang napakasimple, ah.
Oo, yun lang yun eh. Philosophy cannot tell you that God exists. But philosophy also cannot tell you conclusively that God does not exist. But at least there are two sides to every argument. And what philosophy can do is simply to prepare the ground for you to believe in case you find the other side believable, credible, convincing, or the other side is more convincing. Our philosophy here in Ateneo de Manila, although it is true this is a Catholic Christian university, I don't think merong slant to the Catholic faith. What is clear is that it gives you the opportunity, the reasons to believe that most probably God exists. But it will not tell you that this is the God of Christianity. It will not tell you that this is the God of the Muslims. No, that there is a God. But who this God is no longer within the purview of philosophy to respond to.
Wow.
Papasok na yung revelation dyan. Dito na papasok yung theology,
yan,
yung revelation.
so
that God exists, that's what even Thomas Aquinas would say that. Philosophy can help you believe that God exists, but who this God is, it is the territory of theology na. Revelation and everything.
Yun na yung sasagutin naman ng ating mga
Yes.
doktrina.
Even philosophy philosophy, I think, cannot explain to you how a God can become a human being.
Yung incarnation, you mean, ano?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although some would say pwede pa rin, but I don't think so. In terms of what we believe in terms of the incarnation.
Okay. So, Father, as a philosopher, we have a few minutes na naman po. Pero as a philosopher, Father, ano yung mga pinapangarap mo pang gawin? Like, do you have questions that you want to research on? O nagbabala ka pa bang bumalik sa pagtuturo?
Well,
right now, you're an administrator.
I think, kung papayagan ako ng presidente ko, I think
Sino ba yung presidente na yun, ha?
Father Karel.
Father Karel.
I think I should, at a certain point, should return to go to teaching. Para at least may contact ako with the students. Mahirap kasi kung puro administration lang. But siguro not immediately because I'm still adjusting in terms of my work in Ateneo de Zamboanga. Especially now, next year Pasko kami. So marami kami dapat ginagawa. Pero it's good for administrators to be in contact. Even Father Nebres, di ba?
Yes,
when he was president,
and
he was also teaching math.
Yes,
So it's good for administrators to be in touch with their students.
Do you plan to write a book?
No. Ang hirap-hirap magsulat eh. Tapos yung dissertation ko, okay na yan. Siguro articles.
Is there such thing as kasi merong sa LSC they talk about Asian theology. Is there such thing as Filipino philosophy or Asian philosophy? I mean,
when I was in LaSalle, our dean, our chair then, Dr. Emerita Quito, who died recently, she was an advocate of Filipino philosophy. She did not philosophize in Filipino, just like Father Roque, pero she wrote a lot in terms of what Filipino philosophy is. So
something close to ano yan, ano, Father Albert Aleo's attempt
yung loob,
tao po tuloy.
something like that.
Yes, loob. Yeah.
Dito, I think
So, meron. Kung titingnan natin, meron, ano?
meron, pero it's really may pagka-oriental eh.
Ayun nga.
Ang problema kasi I may be wrong, no?
Mhm.
Pag sinabing Asian philosophy, ang alam lang natin is Chinese philosophy.
Yes.
mga ganyan.
Indian philosophy.
Indian philosophy. Filipino philosophy, yun na nga ang problema. We don't even have the Filipino words to discuss metaphysics eh.
Yan.
So maybe there's still much work to do in terms of that.
Okay, ano po yung magiging advice niyo, Father, or message sa mga Atenista, mga estudyante na na kumbaga nag-iisip mag-do full-time work in philosophy or as a career or say, 'di ba? Anong magiging advice niyo sa kanila?
Well, if you're thinking of a career, it's not a career.
Profession?
It's a vocation. Teaching is always a vocation. Especially in terms of teaching philosophy. Kasi right now, mga students would look down on philosophy as something very useless.
Yun nga eh. Diba?
But as I've said, don't use the word philosophy. Use the word keep on thinking. Huwag kayo magsawa sa pag-iisip. And that will do. Hindi madali magturo eh. Hindi rin madali mag-isip. Pero yung filosofiya helps us, guides us in terms of how to think correctly.
Okay, so think. Never get tired of thinking. Okay, so Father Louis, before we end, we have a game here sa Jesuit Hour. You give us one-word descriptions of whatever I tell you. Okay.
One-word description.
Yes, one word lang.
Filipino, English?
Whatever
word,
you like.
sige.
First mga philosophers, Saint Augustine.
Sinner. Totoo naman eh, before he became a saint, di ba?
Thomas Aquinas?
Philosopher.
Naks naman. Okay, the Philippine Jesuits.
What?
The Philippine Jesuits, hindi na philosopher.
The Philippine Jesuits.
Our province.
Diverse.
Diverse. Ateneo de Zamboanga?
Beloved.
Ateneo de Manila?
Magaling.
Lasal?
Definitely magaling.
And finally, Louis Catalan.
A Jesuit.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Father Louis.
Okay, thank you, Father.
Dumadalaw lang actually po si Father Louis. Nagbabakasyon lang pero nahatak na. Thank you so much for this time and your wisdom which you have shared with us the past hour. Thank you so much. At yan po ang ating palabas ngayon, mga Katipuneros. Until tomorrow, this has been the Jesuit Hour and this is Father Nono Alfonso. Okay, stay safe.